In today's video, I wanted to go through and discuss the Fighters Guild questline featured in the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. The Fighters Guild is one of the many factions present and joinable within the province, and the several guild halls throughout Morrowind are located in Uldrune, Balmora, Vivec, and the Wolverine Hall. Most of the tasks that the Fighters Guild takes on involves protection, extermination, bounty hunting, and retrieval of goods. Sometimes though, and as we'll all come to see through this questline, the stories and plot lines run deeper than what lies beyond the surface. The facts and information provided in this video are brought to you by the game itself and the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages. The story of the Fighters Guild will be covered from my subjective point of view, as this is the first time I'm playing through it. I'm going to ask questions, comment my thoughts, share my opinion on some of the mechanics, features, and story elements, but will still retain objective plot points. Our story begins in any of the aforementioned towns of Morrowind. If you've played through the first bit of the main questline for the game and have spoken to Caius, he'll send you to the Fighters Guild to learn some information. For many, including myself, this could have very well been your first exposure to the guild. Before embarking on the rest of the main quest, Caius will even tell you to go out into the world and make a name for yourself, suggesting a career in the Fighters Guild. Regardless of how it's discovered, I found myself wandering into the Balmora faction hall, looking to grow my talents as a melee fighter and in search of a higher purpose. The first NPC I spoke with was Facile Charasil, and I asked her about the guild. She told me that Adis Fireeye is the steward for this location, and that I should speak with her if I'd like to enlist. I found Fireeye at the top of the stairs, just behind Facile. Speaking with her, she asked what I had wanted, and then wondered if I was here to join the guild. Inquiring about it, she said that I looked like I could take care of myself. Fireeye mentioned that I should read up on the charter before making any decisions though. Ignoring it, I wanted to jump straight in, and I told her to sign me up. She grants me the rank of associate and tells me that as long as I follow orders, everything will be just fine. Once I feel as though I'm ready for it, I can ask her for an advancement as well. Getting right into the tasks she has laid out for me, Fireeye says that there is a very simple contract. There's an infestation of rats that she wants me to handle. Apparently, Jeraine Thalos has rats occupying her home here in Balmora. I'm to find out where they're coming from, and then I'm to exterminate them. Once that's done, she'll give me my compensation, and then I'm to return back here. Adis told me that Thalos lives on the east side along the river, so I went from door to door looking around. I have to say, this quest feels really near and dear to me. In Oblivion, which is where most of my Elder Scrolls time has been dedicated to, one of the first quests for the Fighters Guild is called a rat problem, and the person you need to help out is named Arvena Thalos. It's really interesting to see the inspiration that Oblivion pulled from its predecessors. Finding Jeraine's home and entering inside, I spotted the Myrrh right away and began speaking with her. She asked if I was sent here to take care of the rats, and I told her yes. Thalos mentioned that she's worried the vermin will eat all of her pillows. Apparently, there's one trapped in her bedroom, and the other two are in her storage area. She handed me the key to upstairs, and followed up with saying she believes there are only 3 of them to take care of. Exiting the conversation, I went straight for the door behind her and cracked it open. The first rat was right in the entranceway, and a swift jab with my Daedric spear did the trick. Curiously, looking inside of her room, she most certainly had a lot of pillows to worry about. Leaving her home and ascending up the stairs on the side of the building, I used the key and entered inside of the storage area. Immediately, I was attacked by 2 rats, but again, one prod with my spear was all that was needed. You can definitely tell with the first couple of quests that they're designed for very beginner level players, which completely makes sense. Returning to Thalos, I told her of the cave rats, and she said she would take my word on them being dead. She handed me 100 septims, and that was it for the quest. It's interesting because Fireeye had originally asked me to find out where they were coming from, but that never really came into play for this task. In any case, returning back to the Nord, she was impressed with my work and asked if I was ready for more. Accepting the offer, Adis said that a local egg mine was having problems with egg poachers. Inquiring about it, she informed me that the Kwama eggs are a very lucrative export for Morrowind. Apparently, Drambero of House Halalu owns Egg Shulk Mine and wants to make an example out of the thieves. She name drops them as Savilo Othin and Dainila Valis. Now, a fun fact about this quest, which leads to a very important life lesson for Morrowind, I had already gone exploring in the mines and had actually killed the 2 poachers. In fact, this was long ago when I was trying to increase my spear skill. I picked a random dungeon to enter inside of, wandered around for a bit, killing Kwama foragers, warriors, workers, and even a queen. At the time, I was around level 5 or so, and it really wasn't too difficult or lengthy of a quest. The aforementioned troublemakers, Savilo and Danila, fought with pickaxes and weren't really much of a challenge. As for the life lesson in this game, the most obscure or most mundane of interactions can actually be tied into a lot of different quests. In the other Elder Scrolls installments, a lot of the quest-related enemy NPCs are spawned in as soon as a certain stage of the quest has been triggered. In Morrowind, be careful of who or what you kill, as you never know what's actually tied to a side quest. Regardless, I was able to immediately follow up my conversation with FireEye and tell her that the poachers were dead. She was again proud of the work I had accomplished and paid me out 100 septims. She also rewarded me with 4 quality restore fatigue potions that the guild had acquired on a recent raid. From what I learned about my time in the Morag Tong, the guild advancement mechanic is very different in this game versus future Elder Scrolls installments. Your character has to meet specific level requirements for specific skills and attributes pertaining to the faction. So, for the Fighters Guild, the favorite skills are Axe, Longblade, Blunt, Heavy Armor, Armorer, and Block, and the favorite attributes are Strength and Endurance. None of those are skills I've really progressed with for this character, however, I have been wanting to use Longblade, so this was the perfect excuse to level up that skill. Facile Charasil of the guild actually offers training in it, so I went to her and started paying for skill increases. In order to advance to the apprentice rank, I need one of the favorite skills at level 10. For now, the training isn't so expensive to receive, however, I knew for a fact that as time went on, I'd have to dish out some big coin. Returning back to FireEye, she finally promoted me to apprentice, and I asked her for more work. She told me that there's a contract put out on some Telvanni agents, and it was sent in by the Caldera Mining Company. Apparently, there are 4 agents responsible for thefts and disappearances up at the mines. She calls the perpetrators out as Alino Aurelin, Sithasa Nerothrin, Forthina Herothrin, and Alvaleg. The 4 are apparently hiding out in a cave just north of the mines. However, one of them is likely to be posted as a lookout just outside of it. Now, the part that I find the most interesting in all of this is that when asked about each individual, she'll call them out as members of the Thieves Guild. However, she insists that the guild has nothing to do with the thefts and disappearances, which is quite odd. If you question it being a Thieves Guild job, FireEye will actually question your loyalties, saying that killing one of their own is grounds for expulsion, and that it won't get reported as a murder if no one says anything about it. This is a pretty good time to mention, as it's been pointed out to me, and it's currently being set up. The Thieves Guild and the Fighters Guild are at odds with one another. Getting to a certain point in either of the quest lines will cut you off from completing the other one. There is apparently a workaround for that, although for the sake of this video, I just want to focus on the Fighters Guild side of things. Arriving in Caldera, I followed the townsfolk's directions to the mines and quickly approached the site. Looking around, I noticed a wood elf perched in some shrubs just outside of a cave. Getting in closer, it turned out to be Alvaleg, one of the 4 agents I was sent to hunt down. Speaking with him, his opening line was being awestruck at my Nerevarine status. Trying to get some interesting dialogue out of him, I asked about the Thieves Guild, but he only responded by wondering if I wanted to join. Soon, I found the Telvanni agent's prompt, and at first, he mentioned he hadn't seen any of them around here. Then, he followed up with turning hostile towards me, and the fight began. 2 successful jabs with my spear, and the Bosmer was defeated. Again, these are entry-level quests, so there really isn't much difficulty here. Beyond Alvaleg was the entrance into Ashinamu. Going inside and venturing a little bit in, the 3 remaining agents were grouped up along the pathway. Getting within eyeshot, they aggroed onto me and came charging in. I imagine for lower level players, becoming overwhelmed by the attackers would be a possible issue. So a pretty good strategy would be to hold them at a narrow choke point, so that way there's only one-on-one contact. Very soon, all 3 of them were defeated, and I decided to grab some loot out of the cave. On an elevated platform just beyond the agents, there was a trapped, locked, rusted chest that contained the Murdrum Ring, an enchanted piece that fortifies sneak for 10 points for 30 seconds and makes the user invisible also for 30 seconds. Once all was said and done, I leapt back to Caldera, used the Mages Guild teleportation services, and returned to the Fighters Guild. For convenience, I cast a mark in front of Adis and then spoke again with the Nord. She was happy to hear about my completion of the task, commenting that the mining company probably feels a whole lot safer now. She pays me out 400 gold, and then I went and got more Longblade training with Facile. Once I reached level 20, FireEye promoted me to the rank of Journeyman. Asking again for another job, she told me that I needed to fetch a codebook for one of the guild's clients. Apparently, the codebook is currently in possession of someone named Satilde at the South Wall Corner Club here in Balmora. When asked about Satilde, surprise surprise, she's a member of the Thieves Guild. Adis gets defensive and says that even though it's her fault the book is gone, I should respect her authority and do as I'm told. Leaving the guild hall and traversing across town, I arrived at the corner club and entered inside. Immediately, I was face to face with my target. Speaking with the Nord, I asked her about the book, and she played coy, pretending not to know what I was on about. Realizing what needed to be done, I cast Charm on her and tried again. This time, she called me her friend and handed it right over. She said she didn't want any trouble with me and asked that I don't tell anyone about our little transaction. I wanted to have a quick peek at the codebook for curiosity's sake, but similar to the coded package from Caius, the words were all scrambled and they didn't make any sense. Returning to Adis, she asked if I had the book, and I was given the option to hand it over to her or not. This sort of acts as a point of no return for the Fighters Guild, and apparently makes completing the Thieves Guild questline very difficult. Choosing to give the codebook to FireEye, she paid me out 50 septims and commented that the guild needs more workers like me. Before continuing onwards with contracts, I went back to Facile and inflated my Longblade skill to level 30. I'm torn on how I feel about Morrowind's rank advancement mechanic. I feel as though needing to have your skills meet a certain standard does make a lot of sense, but at the same time, I don't really like how it has to fall under a favored skill or favored attribute. My character is proficient in light armor and spear, which to me should fit right in with the fighter standards. I understand that it's meant to streamline specific classes into specific factions, but it also feels a little too limiting. Returning to FireEye, she promoted me to the rank of swordsman, and I asked her for more orders. She told me that someone by the name of Helvien Desolé owes one of the guild's clients 200 gold in debt money. Desolé runs a corner club in Saran, and Manos Althrelith is the client. I'm to bring the money back to FireEye, and I get to keep half of it. There isn't a dialogue prompt for Manos, but he is one of Orvis Dren's men from the Kimona Tong. Traveling to Saran and entering inside of the House of Earthly Delights, I cased the NPCs for Desolé. Helvien was actually one of the bartenders, and speaking with her, she welcomed me to her home. Inquiring about the debt money, she tells me that the Kimona Tong keeps badgering her to pay up for their protection, but it feels like more of a shakedown as they're really the ones causing trouble around here. In the end, she refuses to pay it. There are a variety of ways to handle going forward. Among them is to kill her and to take the money. However, casting a simple charm spell raises her disposition high enough, and then the debt money prompt can be tried again. This time, she said I had convinced her, and she handed me over the 200 gold, following this by asking me to tell the Kimona Tong to leave her alone once and for all. With the money in hand, I cast Recall and approached Adis. She asked if I had recovered the drakes, and I was prompted to hand them over to her. Doing so, she gave me my half, and I got straight into my next assignment. Apparently, there's a contract out for someone named Dura Grabol. She's an orc outlaw who lives here in the town of Balmora. The bounty on her head is 250 gold if she's brought to justice. Here are my collected thoughts on the questline so far. There's a lot of crossover with the Thieves Guild, which is fairly interesting, but that's the least of my concerns. Adis has us outright working with the criminal organization of the Kimona Tong, shaking down seemingly innocent businesses. She's also sending me out to kill Thieves Guild members and telling me not to report their deaths to the officials, lording her authority over mine. It's actually all very interesting, and I'm really curious if this is something that plays out further with the quest line, or if it gets overlooked and forgotten about. Through asking around town and learning of Dura's home on the east side, I looked around for nameplates until I landed on hers. Entering inside, spear in hand, I ascended up her house until I ran into the orc. Speaking with her, her dialogue was fairly mundane, and there weren't really any quest-related topics. Deciding to just go for it, I got 2 heavy attacks in with my spear, and Grabol was dead. An easy enough task, I returned to Fire-Eye, and she asked me how I was coming along with the bounty. Telling her it was done, she rewarded me with 250 septums. In order to ascend to the rank of Protector, I need 1 favorite skill to be at level 40, and now 2 of them needed to be at level 10. So this means I now had to pay for even more training. Of course, going out into the world and leveling on my own time is a valid option, but having a lot of gold in this game can work wonders too. For the minor favorite skills, I really wasn't too interested in any of them, except for maybe say heavy armor. Choosing to level it along with armorer, I rested and ascended to level 20. Feeling good and ready, I went back to Fire-Eye and she told me that I needed to carry out more duties before I could actually be promoted. Asking for more orders then, she said that she didn't have any more contracts for fighters below the Protector rank. She ended with saying I should pay a visit to the other guild halls in order to see what's out there. Deciding to try out the big city next, I traveled to Vivec and went up to the Foreign Quarter Plaza. Entering inside of the guild hall there, I embarrassingly kept wandering in circles, wondering where the other fighters were. Eventually, I found a way I hadn't gone through and ended up meeting with Lord Bummel Groaklak. He asked if I wanted orders or an advancement. Asking for the former, he told me that someone named Nar Groshagramf was supposed to hand a ring over to someone named Renz Yeneth, but hasn't done so yet. I'm to retrieve the Juiced-Off feather ring for Yeneth and hand it to Lord Bummel. Lord Bummel tells me that Nar could be found in the Hlalu Plaza if I wanted to go to him straight away. I thought I had recognized Rain's name, and as it turns out, he's also another member of the Kimona Tong, based out of the Dren Plantation, which is very peculiar. I levitated over to the neighboring canton and entered inside. Looking around for a bit, I spotted an orc, and it turned out to be my target. Because he had the awestruck Nervarine opening dialogue prompt, I was able to boost his disposition past 60, and then, when asked about the ring, he openly handed it over to me, saying that he never liked it anyways. Recalling back to Lord Bummel, he asked if I had gotten the Juiced-Off feather. I told him yes and handed it over for a payout of 100 septums. Now I was finally able to ask for a promotion, and he granted me the rank of Protector. Inquiring about further orders, Aglak informed me that there's an Argonian named Tongue Toad who's running his mouth off. He's based out of the Rat in the Pot in Aldrun, and Aglak says he'll give me 500 gold to silence him. This definitely feels more like a personal bounty than protecting and serving the public. It seems like a far cry off for the Fighters Guild. Regardless, I have my orders and take the Mages Guild teleportation services to the Aldrun Guild Hall and wander inside of the establishment. Tongue Toad was walking around in the lower area, and speaking with him, he introduced himself. Bringing up him as a topic, he was shocked that the Fighters Guild would want to have him killed. I was prompted to either talk with him or to start jabbing away with my spear. Choosing to talk at first, Tongue Toad asked to be let go and said that I could report him having left town. This then gave me the prompts of killing him or letting him escape. I thought about it for a bit, but ultimately decided that I wanted some action. I chose to attack and he began to panic. Oddly enough though, this didn't provoke him to run or to start the fight. He just continued to stand around. Thinking I was in the clear, I gave him a good jab with my spear, and this attracted the attention of everybody inside of the tavern. They all came to his aid, and it was here I thought it would be best to start this interaction over. Reverting to my last save and choosing to kill him again, this time I cast Frenzy. This caused him to attack first, and made it so we were able to fight one-on-one. He didn't really put up much of a challenge, and in 4 or so hits, the Argonian was defeated. Again, something was fishy about this whole scenario. He was killed for apparently bad-mouthing someone or something, and even he wasn't really sure what he did wrong. In any case, I recalled back to Vivec and informed Aglak of the Argonian's death. He called it good work and paid me out my 500 gold. For the next contract, Lord Bummel tells me that there's a bounty out on a Khajiit named Drosakar. All he says after is that this Drosakar possibly lives somewhere in the St. Olms district. Following the lead, I leapt over to the Canton's Plaza and began asking around. Some of the citizens were saying that there's a suspicious looking Khajiit in one of the homes off of the south side canal. Dropping down to the lower level, I started to go in and out of the establishments until I landed on Drosakar's. Again, speaking with him, There wasn't really any quest-related dialogue. When asked about his profession and the Thieves Guild though, he told me that he was indeed a member of the faction, and everything fell into place from there. Deciding not to further prolong the inevitable, I got 2 good jabs into the Khajiit before he fell to the ground dead. After scoping the spot for potential loot, I recalled back to the guild hall, and Aglak asked me if the Khajiit has been slain. I told him the contract was completed, and he paid me out 500 septums for the bounty. I wanted to ascend to the rank of Defender, and the requirements for that was 1 favored skill at 50 and 2 at level 15. In the entrance area of the hall, there was a red guard named Rag who offered long blade training. At this point, services were getting expensive, as every new session was now priced in the high 300s for gold. Unfortunately, there wasn't a trainer in the hall for heavy armor or armorer, and not wanting to go on a wild goose chase, I chose to just continue with the questline. Asking Aglak for more orders, he tells me that someone named Lyriel Stoin in Aldrun owes someone named Sovereign Doves over 2,000 septums of debt money. If I successfully retrieve the gold, I get to keep half. Stoin can apparently be found back at the Rat in the Pot. Teleporting over to their Mages Guild Hall and venturing into the Aldrun Tavern, I found Lyriel stationed behind the bar. Speaking with her, I asked about the debt money. She told me that her brother, Ruran, originally was the one who owed the Kimono Tong. He's since gone missing in action though, and the debt has fallen onto her. The issue is that she's unable to pay that sum of money. When asked further about Ruran, she told me that in order to pay off the gang, he went to search for riches in the caves of Malapi near Narmok. Nobody has seen him since though. There's seemingly no way to extort Stoin for the gold, and it looks like Malapi is my best shot of getting the money. Although Lyriel has no further information to offer on the caves. Making my way to the fishing village, I asked around amongst the NPCs for directions, and the best they could give me was that Malapi was northeast of here. Navigating through the West Gash region and a little bit beyond the Telvanni ancestral tomb, I found the entrance to the cave and went on inside. Shortly along the path, I encountered my first challenging enemy, Adramora Lord. It fought using destruction magic, and luckily, I was able to strike it down before its fire blasts got the better of me. Just beyond it was a cross section, and the path to the right led to Ruran's body. He had a bunch of loot on him, including 501 gold coins, which unfortunately was nowhere close enough to covering the debt. However, as pointed out by the UASP, all that Aglak needs from me is to deliver the 2,000 septums, so selling all of the valuable and enchanted loot in here should suffice for the payment. In terms of enemies, there were a few more Daedra to defeat, as well as 2 sorceresses. Once everything was killed and their belongings taken, I originally returned back to Lyriel because I thought she would have had more dialogue to offer. There wasn't anything more to discuss with her though, so I ended up returning to Lorumble and handed over the 2,000 gold. The nice part is that 1,000 of it gets returned, so with enough goods looted in exchange for money, you most certainly can come out of this one net positive. So far, a lot of these Fighter Guild contracts are comprised of killing members of the Thieves Guild and aiding the Kimono Tong criminal organization. It feels as though the guild is a little lost in its vision right now, and that helping out the common folk of the province has been put to the side.